Welcome to our Designing Kick-Ass Ads webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us. The response to this webinar has been amazing. Since there are so many people on the webinar, we just ask that you save all the questions until the end, and then we'll leave some time to answer them after the presentation. If you have to run out early and can't stay for questions, you can always email them to service@metro-email.com. And we'll have some time, and we'll try to get back to you within like about 24 hours or so, so we'll still be able to answer your questions. And then tomorrow you'll get an email, a follow-up email from Zoom with a link to the recording of the webinar and a PDF or links to PDFs for our good versus bad ad e-booklet. My name is Bethany Weidenhammer, and I'm here with Metro's customer service team. And I'm here with our Vice President of Creative Services, Daryl Davis, and Senior Graphic Designer, Laura Cook. If you are familiar with Metro, you know that we have thousands of ready-made ads that you can choose from. And we've done all the hard work of creating great-looking ads so that all you potentially have to do is a bit of customizing. But we know that there will be plenty of times when you need to start from scratch or just want to start from scratch, or when a client wants to play art director, and we all know how that can go. So we'll cover design basics and give you some expert tips as well as best practices for melding sales and creative input to develop more effective ads. For those of you in sales, this should give you the confidence to help guide your clients into making good decisions and to also communicate their needs effectively with your design team. We'll also go over ways to target promotions for advertisers as a team using your Metro resources. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Daryl.
Thanks, Bethany, and welcome everybody to Designing Kick-Ass Ads here at Metro. We're really talking about just designing great ads. But as far as an introduction, we're really talking about the purpose of advertising is actually to sell products, services, or ideas. So designing a good and effective ad is necessary to engage prospective customers. For our sales people that are joining us today, building relationships and caring for your customers is the main goal. And in doing so, you're developing a relationship with your designers as well. In order to create a great ad, we need to be conveying specific needs of an advertiser to the designer. And sometimes an ad is not just focused on a specific product. Sometimes it's relating news about a special event or a grand opening, maybe a relocation, a new product line, hiring new staff and highlighting the staff, or perhaps a milestone like an anniversary. All of these elements work together to create great ads that can sell and get results. So important that a recent study indicated recently that the average person is now estimated to encounter between 6,000 to 10,000 ads a day, up from 3,000 in 2007. So our digital world is really increasing our exposure. And this is all about breaking through the clutter out there. Excuse me. So we're going to be going through some copyright laws, some trends graphically that we see happening. We're going to talk about catchy headlines, creating campaigns, and designing for all platforms. First up, and something that's really important before we go into anything, is protecting ourselves by not using images that we pull from Google or the internet or any unrecognized source. If you, as an advertising individual, didn't take the photo or create the image yourself, you do need permission to use it. And copyright laws, as we know them, extend beyond images. Phrases are trademarked as well. We encounter situations with Super Bowl, March Madness, the Academy Awards, Oscars. We had a recent request for the Masters tournament. We generally, and we definitely cannot cover these kinds of copyrighted activities. They cost millions to sponsor. However, we always have generic versions of this content for your advertising needs. We're going to talk a little bit about styles. Styles can come and go, and they often serve to better communicate specific ideas. This is important. This is an important aspect of communication between sales and design. We're going to show you some samples of neon, some flat design graphics. We'll go into infographics and talk about our COVID-related content. The first style we're seeing that's gaining in popularity is neon graphics. They're interesting, bold, they're kind of colorful. Sometimes they take the form of a type solution, other times an object. As we see two examples down here in the lower left, they're very campaignable. They really kind of are dynamic and break through the clutter of a lot of normal ads on a page. So that's something that we're offering a lot of. So take a look. Next up, we have flat design graphics, which have been trending and which essentially are visual icons. These icons communicate well without words. We know the power of graphics from road and traffic signs that we use every day, but they read quickly, they're universally recognized, and they're fantastic to utilize in an ad. The flat design graphics lead us into our infographic presentation. And the infographics are an engaging, graphic, timely layout. They are a perfect opportunity for a premium advertiser to support the layout. We know that readers love facts and figures, and pages like this really have a little longer staying power, a little longer shelf life. So for a great ad to be prepared as a premium advertiser, it just really gets more eyeballs on the ad. Now, moving into our continued commitment to COVID-19 advertising support, our content has included, full sections, ads, graphics, images in all advertising categories as it's related to the COVID-19 situation. We have ads and ideas for health, safety, education, food categories. It's all very important as our entire industry has been upended by the virus for the past year. And this is a situation that was really very unique, but again, something where it's important for an effective dialogue to be created between salespeople and designers in order to communicate effectively with local advertisers and their needs about reopening, safety concerns, special hours for older people to go shopping. And just please take a look at our content as it relates to the COVID situation. All ads require a headline, and it's another component of a great ad. So a lot of times headlines can be an attention-grabbing headline, convey a great offer. They can talk about what your advertiser's customers need to know, and ultimately urge the customers to act. In this situation, we're comparing two headline treatments, both to the same demographic, to the same audience. On the left, we have a more traditional kind of relaxed headline with a clear benefit talking about retirement and retirement financial services. And on the right, Retirement Rocks is a much more fun, irreverent treatment of the same subject matter, trying to reach the same demographic. But you see how the headline can make a huge difference in the way an ad gets conveyed to a possible consumer. And it's just important to consider a headline when you're creating a great ad. A couple more examples of this. Next. We're creating a few ads here that have the solutions here take advantage of both the headline and the image to create an effective interplay between them. In other words, we've always found that it's much more engaging and fun to say doggone frustrated versus like dog training available, or something simplistic like luggage on sale. It's much more engaging when we read something like be ready to roll or chiropractic is back. So definitely consider the headlines. And another important situation beyond the sale of a single print or digital ad is a campaign buy. This particular campaign was created for a stay-at-home consumer trend during the height of the pandemic. We had a situation where we discovered locally that people were buying kits to create at home with the family when they weren't able to go out to restaurants. So as a salesperson, it's always wise to create a series of spec ads that we, may be able to engage an advertiser for a full campaign versus a single ad. Campaigns often have consistent brand recognition. The look stays the same, but the information can change from ad to ad. And here's a couple more examples of campaigns that we have available. And just to speak a little bit about these, the campaign on the left creates a format where they're highlighting individual real estate agents, and it keeps the same look, but it's able to convey different information and again, highlight another agent in each ad. On the right, we've discovered that Q&As are really popular and a great way to create campaigns and make your local advertiser a local expert. They're engaging, they are interesting to the reader, and they really, again, try to make a local advertiser an expert in the field. Again, they look the same, but they have different information, and they create a continuous look. And finally, in this section, we're talking about the difference between newspaper ads, magazine ads, and a mobile or digital ad. With newspaper ads in general, we have more of an opportunity to include more copy, be more explanatory about the product or the service. And the image works in color and black and white, which we know in newspapers we need to employ often. When we're looking at a magazine ad for the same kind of advertiser, this is often a glossy, maybe a little more upscale publication, typically have less copy, higher brand recognition, and just in general look a little slicker. For digital and mobile ads, we kind of pare it all down, and we employ minimal copy. It highlights the image, a clear benefit or a call to action. And with digital and mobile ads, we really are looking for a quick read, like you read a billboard when you're driving on a highway, like a 2 to 3 second moment to communicate the thought. I'm going to turn it over to our senior designer, Laura, to drill down a little more specifically with what it takes to create a great ad.
Okay, thanks, Daryl. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to be going over some design basics. These are design elements that a designer will think about while laying out their ads. And as a sales professional, it's important to recognize these elements when selling an ad to a client. You'll feel confident that you're presenting a well-designed ad to them, and you can clearly point out why the ad will be effective. So we've come up with these 10 elements of a good ad to keep in mind when designing and selling an advertisement. So I've listed them here, and I'm going to discuss each and show examples. So I'll just go over the list. We have appropriate image, appropriate font, a strong headline that's going to pull the reader in, a clear message, good balance of images and text. You want a good eye flow. As a designer, you control how a reader will take in the information and what's important based on the layout. Have adequate white space. What's the benefit to the consumer? You want complete contact information, of course. And then 2 acronyms to keep in mind while designing, to keep it simple and straightforward, which is KISS, and ADA, which is to get their attention, give them information, create a desire, and then get them to act. So first up, we have appropriate image and font. Both of these elements can give the consumer important information at a glance without even reading a single word. So the images will draw a reader in and keep their attention longer. The image will illustrate what the ad is for, and a complementary font will help give you a feeling about the establishment. Again, that's without reading a single word, just as someone's flipping through a paper. And as Daryl said earlier about consumers being bombarded with advertisements, it's important to quickly and accurately represent the business with the image and font in case they don't read any copy. So things that can be conveyed quickly with images and fonts are things like price, atmosphere, if an establishment is family friendly. And these things are important to potential customers, so you want to accurately depict those things. So I want to illustrate how an image alone can allow a consumer to make a quick assessment of a business. I chose these images of pizza because there's lots of different types of pizza. There's lots of different qualities and price points of pizza. Most people like pizza. So just based on the image as a consumer, I'll make assumptions about a business just by the different feels that these images are conveying to me. So I might think quickly how expensive one of these restaurants would be and what the atmosphere would be like. So on these particular images, this first one feels more traditional, a classic old style Italian restaurant, possibly more expensive. When you look at the image, you can almost imagine what the decor of the restaurant would look like. The next one on the top there, this has more of a bar feel to me. Maybe it's a place where you go to have a drink, but they also have a pizza oven in the back. So you go to share a meal with friends while having a drink. Not like a sit-down restaurant. The next one feels more trendy, this style of photograph overhead on a wood background. There might be more options, more interesting ingredient combinations, and probably more pricey. Definitely more pricey than the next image of a slice of pizza on a paper plate that quickly reads as to go, quick meal, cheap. And then finally, the illustration graphic at the bottom definitely conveys family friendly and less expensive. So I'm sorry. So, with no copy at all, this is just like how I judge the establishment just by looking at pictures. So as designers, it's important to accurately represent the business. And it's also important for a salesperson to convey those things to a designer as well, what should be represented. And the second element going hand in hand with the image is the font. Fonts help to add a feeling. They're the first impression to the style of the business and will set a tone for the ad. The three basic categories of fonts are serif fonts, sans serif fonts, and decorative fonts. Oh, my decorative fonts didn't load. So first, the serif fonts. Serif fonts they have decorative strokes and tails or feet on each of the letters. So because of that, it creates an imaginary line, and these fonts tend to be easier to read, especially in article copy and newsprint. And the general feeling you get from a serif font is going to be more traditional, established, expensive, classic, a timeless sort of feel. The sans serif font is a font sans serif, so it doesn't have that extra tail or feet on all of the letters. And so then it just is more of a simple font, which conveys a modern, clean, and approachable feel. My decorative fonts, which I did have some decorative fonts in there, but they didn't load. So there are lots of kinds of decorative fonts these days. Scripts, handwritten, calligraphy, graffiti, chalkboard. It's endless the amount of decorative fonts you can download for free these days. So you don't want to overuse a decorative font. They work best when paired with the serif or sans serif font. They can add excitement. They can give a more personal feel. I had a nice script font there for more personal. And I had a fun font that says it becomes art, because decorative fonts can get real fun, and it almost becomes, you know, the image of, you don't need you have like good typography, you don't need an additional image. The text becomes the art. So now we want to be able to pair the image to a font to create a cohesive look. So this first image here with the traditional Italian restaurant, I have paired with a sans serif font first. And to me, the feel is so off that I might have assumed that the font didn't load. And that looks like a default font on top of that image. That is the correct font I paired that with to show the example of how that doesn't pair well together. But when I use a more traditional serif font with the traditional image, that has a better cohesive feel. With the illustration vector art over here, definitely with that serif font, they just don't match at all. You're getting very different feel from the image to the font on top. This one paired with a nice decorative font gives you that family fun feel. Both the type and the image are working well together. And in this last example, I have the more trendy image, and I have it paired with the serif font, which doesn't really go well together. The sans serif it's looking better, it's more modern and clean. But really the last one where I used a decorative font with the sans serif, I think that conveys more of the same feel as the photograph. So it's more personal, looks a little more trendy. The decorative font and the sans serif font really work well together and match the photograph. So how do you choose appropriate image and font? Things just like the type of business, photos of the business online in their social media, and then also what they already use in their logo and branding. This last one can get a little tricky because a business might have an old-time, old-fashioned logo that's traditional and they don't want to change that, but maybe they want to attract a different kind of clientele. They want, you know, they've upgraded their services, they're have new decor, things that they want to bring in a different clientele. So these are bits of information that are good for a salesperson to relay to a designer so they can create the right feel for the ad and attract the clientele that a business is trying to attract. So next in the 10 design elements of a good ad are a strong headline and a clear message. So here I have an example of one of Metro's ad templates. After the image has drawn you in, you want a strong headline. This is the first and possibly only piece of information that a consumer will read and then decide if they're interested in the ad and if it applies to them. So you want to draw them in with the headline. So the headline, free family workouts, tells you exactly what you need to know. It's in a strong, noticeable font. And then if the reader is interested in what's being offered, the message is clear. It tells you exactly what you need to know, when and where. So this is a good example of a highly effective small ad, which isn't getting bogged down with too much copy. But we all know that business owners want copy. They want to fill every centimeter in with information, tout every item and every service that they offer. They want to showcase everything since they're paying for the space. And the problem with that is when everything's being said at once, nothing stands out, nothing gets your attention. And a reader needs to have something to stand out in order to decide if they want to read the rest of the information. And that's why you need a strong headline. So this ad was submitted to us for a redesign as a trouble ad for a conference we did a couple of years ago. And as you can see, there's no strong headline. Even the name of the business is not standing out strong enough at the top. All the text is similarly sized, and the copy is repetitive and just filling up valuable space. To illustrate the last point of repetitive copy, I took the ad and just highlighted all the copy that's repetitive. So you have locally handcrafted a few times, creating a perfect piece, custom pieces, custom designing, custom work made for our customers. It says we design for every room and then later lists all the rooms. So the repetition is not making for a clear message. It's more work for the reader to sift through all of this copy, and they'll most likely not read it at all because it's just too much. There's a lot that can be edited down here, and it should be conveyed to a business owner that this amount of copy is actually doing more harm than good and having an effective ad. So I redesigned the ad here on the right, and I pulled out a piece of copy that I believed would be a strong headline, which is, "We enjoy working with you to create that perfect piece you've always wanted." And to be a strong headline, it doesn't have to be overpowering. It doesn't have to be the largest thing on the page. On this ad, the business name is really the first thing you'll read. And then the way I redesigned the ad, I think, you know, you then read that next piece, which is the headline next. And I saw a question come in when Daryl was talking about headlines, you know, should the headline be bigger than the business logo? And it definitely does not. That's not always the case. A headline is just the one piece that's going to get the reader to read more information. So I think in this case, you know, I saw that question come in and knew I'd be talking about this later. So the headline doesn't have to be the largest thing on the ad. So the way I laid out that last ad, I felt like I didn't need the headline to be so big because it flowed well from the logo to the headline. So that's a good segue into the next two elements, which are balance and eye flow. So balance is having the space of the images and text appropriately positioned within the ad so that the ad doesn't seem too crowded in one section. And you don't want the images to overpower the text. You want them to work together to create a flow for the reader's eye to follow. On this ad, the image brings your eye in to that centered football, really, because the images are creating this V. And then right to the headline, the main information is centered and flows directly down to the advertiser information. And then additional information is left and right justified, and the reader can seek that out once they've become interested in the contest, and you gave them the important information first by letting their eye follow down to all the important information. Then they can seek out those additional details. So I wanted to show an example of bad balance and bad flow using this ad. I didn't want to totally butcher the ads. Both of these are still viable ads, but just not quite as good as the original. So the first, bad balance, it's just too top heavy. The images take up about 1/3 of the ad and overpower the text. And then with the text all, you know, smushed to the left there at the bottom, it just feels off balance. In the middle one, the bad flow example, you can see I have everything centered justified, but with the headline and the images separated, those are really the first two places I want to look. So I read the headline, but then I jump down to the image because that image is creating a V that's pointing me down to the advertiser information. And I just skipped over all of that important copy underneath the headline. And at this point, it feels like work for the reader to jump back up and get that information. So I would probably look up and seek out that information if I was interested in this, but it wasn't a natural flow to the ad, and probably not the way a designer would intend you to take in the information, and that therefore it's just not as effective. So next is another challenging but very important element, which is white space, or it can be referred to as negative space. These two terms are interchangeable but have different origins. So white space is traditionally used in print design, as most papers and printing was done in black and white, and the white space referred to any space that was left white, even the little bits of space within letters like the E and the A and the O, that white space. So negative space is originally a photography term, which means anything in the photograph that's not the main focus, which is the positive space. So negative space doesn't have to be white. It can be anything in the background that's not in focus. So for our purposes, I'm going to use the word white space, even though, especially in web design, they'll use the term negative space as well. So when I say white space, I'm not referring to these very minimalistic ads that are mostly white space. Ads like these don't tend to run in newspapers where advertisers are trying to cram in lots of information. But it's important to make white space on your ads because it'll make your ad stand out on a text-heavy newspaper page that's already very full. It'll draw the reader in, and then it will help to have moments of pause for your eye to take in new information. So here's another one of those troublesome ads that I redesigned for the same conference I mentioned earlier. The main problem I saw with this ad was the lack of white space. The copy is running too close to the border, and when placed on a newspaper page, as I placed it here, you see the ad kind of gets lost. The copy of the newspaper text almost runs into the copy of the ad, and there's no break in between all of the information that's in this ad. So it's hard to even see where you should start reading it. So this is the redesigned version. You can see I made a lot of prominent white space around the border to break up where it'll be seen on the newspaper page next to the text. I made the headline larger and more prominent, and then all the information is broken up into sections with a nice, surrounding white space, so you can decide if you're going to continue on reading each section. So I dropped the ad on the newspaper spread again, and you can see that, it might be a little bit easier to spot, and then just having that nice whiteness around the ad, breaking up all of the text-heavy copy around it really helps to get your attention. So that was a relatively easy ad to find white space for, but we often run into projects where there's a lot more text to handle. So, how do we find white space for these copy-heavy ads without making everything 6-point type? And with this ad, I noticed there's a white space problem and an eye flow issue. I don't know where to look first. And then second, there's no white space to pause between the sections of information. So here is the redesign I did on the right. And I think it's important to be able to find white space and to order information just by thinking of it as a hierarchy. What will draw the reader in? I have largest the name of the event. What action will the reader need to take? The date, time, for the event. And then additional text gets smaller, maybe with a larger headline that's going to draw you in. And with this much text and information, it's nice to use bursts or call outs that are going to have exciting selling points that will get noticed quickly and might make the consumer more excited about the event or the business. And that kind of information is really good to get from a salesperson if they have insider information from the business owner, or, you know, of what they are really excited about and what they want to convey specifically. And finally, a key element of a good ad is to have a benefit to the consumer. This can be a reason to utilize the service in this ad. This is no way to spend your weekend and to take back your free time. And then even better is to have an incentive to try the service, so the 20% off offer. And having an actionable benefit to the consumer is also a benefit to the business and newspaper. The business will have an uptick with a promotion. And then if they ask where they heard about the promotion, this is a clear return on investment for the business and shows that the newspaper advertisement was effective. So this ad is actually a nice example of all the 10 elements of a good ad, so I'm just going to run through them quickly. It has an appropriate image for a cleaning service. It's conveyed immediately. Next, the font is approachable and a clean sans serif, two things you definitely want in a cleaning service, to have it approachable and clean. There's a strong headline. The message is clear. The image and copy are well balanced. The image and copy are working together. Your eye flows easily through the text. The image is pointing upward to the headline and angled toward the offer, so your eye is directly drawn to those two places you want them to look first. There's adequate white space or negative space. There's a clear benefit to the consumer. And of course, complete contact information, including where they can be found on social media. The ad is simple and straightforward. It gets your attention, gives you information, creates a desire to not spend your weekend cleaning, and gets you to act with an offer. So I hope all these examples and all of my talking were helpful to keep these things in mind while designing and selling ads. And I'm going to turn it over to Bethany now.
And Bethany needs to unmute herself. All right. So now that you have all the design basics under your belt, I'm going to go over some ways that your Metro services can help, such as giving you inspiration, finding ad campaigns and digital ads that Daryl was speaking about, ways to communicate the ideas that you find in Metro to between sales and advertisers and designers. And then we also have some other helpful resources for you. So one of the benefits of your Metro subscription is that you don't have to go it alone and design everything from the ground up. You can use Metro for inspiration, including our search book, the creative library and sales area, the My Ad Wizard, our new forum, and our planning and promotions calendar. So every month we update our search book. You can get it in the top left-hand corner of our website, and you'll get an email to let you know when it's available. You'll see pop-up, so definitely take a look at that. Because the search book is the easiest way to see all of the fresh new ideas, sales ideas, content that we add each month. You can turn the pages of the flip book online, or you can download it as a PDF. And the images, ad layouts, and ideas reflect timely topics, holidays, and current design trends. And then everything that's in there becomes part of our entire searchable database. And you can always go into the creative library and type in keywords for searches. But by looking through the search book each month, you're seeing everything that's new and you won't miss anything. It's like when you walk into Target, you didn't know that you needed that until you saw it in front of you on the shelf, and then it goes into your cart. Same with the search book. You can come across images that you never would have thought to search for, but now that you see it in the search book, all these ideas start flowing and you think of great uses for it. There's an advertiser that this would be perfect for. So it's a really great way to just keep in touch with what's new. You can also click on any of the pages in the search book and they'll take you right into the creative library where you can then print out previews or you can download the content right from there, which brings us to the next source of inspiration, which is the creative library. If you have a layout design of your own in mind, you can still find images to use in the creative library, and that way you don't have to worry about pulling stuff off the internet and running into copyright issues, because all of this is covered for you. Or maybe you're just stuck on coming up with copy for an ad you've already created. Jump in here and check out our ad layouts. You can pull copy from one of our templates and put it in your layout, or pull a headline from one ad and copy from another. You mix and match. Or if you are really pressed for time, you can use our entire template and just customize the parts that are needed. If you are in sales and you're an MCC looking for ideas, you can search the same content that's in the creative library in the sales tab, but you also have the added benefit of being able to find revenue generating ideas in here and links to some other helpful sales tools also. If your company subscribes to our presentation tool called the My Ad Wizard, sales reps can create professional looking spec ads to take out to clients. You won't actually be designing ads. You'll simply be typing in your client's contact information and then choosing from one of our existing templates, and then the wizard puts it all together for you. Think of it more as sketching an idea on a napkin meets technology. And I'm sure most of you out there can admit to having sketched an ad on a napkin in your career. But it gives your client a working outline, so to speak, so there's something to start with that they can build on. And it can also help cut back on the amount of changes and the back and forth, which saves everybody time. And then after the ad sells, a designer can take over and do any customizing. So the wizard also helps free up the designer's time, because without you having to stop and create spec ads, you can spend more time on the sold ads. So it's a win-win for everybody. Our new forum is another spot to look for inspiration. Here you can get and share ideas with us and each other. So when you design some kick-ass ads that you want to show off or create some awesome revenue generating promotion, this is the perfect place to do it. Our planning and promotions calendar. This is a resource that can give your clients new reasons to advertise. You'll want to check out the monthly, weekly, and daily events for promotional opportunities that can relate to their business. So for example, April is Couple Appreciation Month. You can take this idea to restaurants. If you're in an area that will be warming up in April, it may be a good time to promote outdoor dining again. Or they can offer a promotion for takeout meals to have a romantic dinner at home. You could also take it to hotels or movie theaters, just depending on the stages of reopening in your area. Or maybe even a deal on outdoor activities like couples golf lessons. These are also really great for social media posts, or maybe even create some contests out of some of the events. And then on the right, there's also a list of bestsellers, which can give you a hand putting together a prospect list. So there were a couple things that Daryl mentioned that I want to make sure you know how to find in MCC. The first are ad campaigns. He talked a lot about ad campaigns. And if you want to start in Metro to get some ideas for those, you can go to the Creative Library, and you're going to want to make sure that Spec Ads and Covers is selected under the Search Source menu, and then scroll down until you get to the Print Ad Type menu, and you're going to choose Campaign from there. And usually all the ads in the campaign will show up together in your search, but you can also click the More Options icon, which are the three little stacked lines, or the hamburger icon below any of the thumbnails, and then scroll down to the related content section, and that will show you all of the ads in that campaign together. So digital ads are another one that he mentioned. And again, in the Creative Library, select Spec Ads and Covers, and then scroll down to the spec ads and covers filters, and you can select web/mobile. And this will give you all of our static JPEG digital ads. But if you're looking for a campaign with digital and print, you're going to want to select print with web mobile here under spec ads and covers. This will show you all the print ads, and then you're going to select the W underneath any of the print ads, and that will show you all the related web ads. And all of our digital ads are downloadable as layered Photoshop files, so they're easy to edit in Photoshop. Daryl and Laura also spoke a lot about communication, and communication between designers and sales and the advertiser is a big part of creating an effective ad. For those of you in sales, if you are on MCC looking for ideas, we have some convenient ways for you to communicate what you need with your clients. So anytime you hover over one of the ad thumbnails, you'll get this window. Oops, sorry, not yet. And you can view a PDF, which you can print out, or you can attach it to an email. You could also use the print preview option, which gives you the screen you have on the right here. And this has an area for you to make notes. So when you're with the client, you can be taking notes on what they want to see in the ad. If you're working from the wizard, you can email a client directly from here, and you'll get a copy of that automatically sent to yourself. You can also hit the print download PDF button, and that will give you a preview screen that you can print out for an in-person meeting, or you can download this preview as a PDF and attach it to an email, or just save it for your own reference. And then once your ad sells and it comes time to convey what you need and what ad layout you want to use to your designers, again, from the hover in MCC, there's a file name. And that is going to be the most important thing that a designer will need, because they're going to plug that file name right into the Creative Library, and you can download the Quark or InDesign package right from there to make any changes. If you did the print preview and took that out to your advertiser, and if your designers are in-house, you can hand them that piece of paper with your notes on it. You can also use the email file link. And the email file link is going to open up a blank email with a link. You can forward that to the designers, and when they click the link, it goes right to the More Options window where you can download. You can also just go directly to the More Options window and copy the URL. Itchy finger here. You can copy that URL at the top of the page, paste it into an email, or if you are using an online order form to communicate with your designer and submit orders, you can paste it right into that. You also have project sharing. So you can add an ad or an image to a project, and then you can share it with your designer as long as they are under your account. Just select add sharing and choose their name from the list. From the wizard to communicate with your designer, again, you have that print preview that you printed out that you can hand them. If not, if you've downloaded the PDF, you can attach that to an email. You can attach it to an order form if you're doing an online order form. So it's flexible those ways. We also have resources to help you. We have video tutorials, training webinars like what we're doing today, account management options, customer service. We're going to be sending you links to our Good versus Bad Ads booklet, and we have some information on the Relevance Project. So first of all, if you're new to Metro, or if you want to learn more about specific features that we've mentioned, like the Project Organizer or the Wizard, we have a huge library of video tutorials that you can find under the support menu. We've created a video for everything we could think of to make a video for. If there's something that there's not one for that you need, let us know and we'll make one. You can also check out the live training webinars under the support menu to see what we have coming up. If you're in sales and you haven't already sat in on one of our sales training webinars, we have one coming up next week where we'll go into a lot more detail about the specific resources to help you sell, like the calendar, the wizard, finding ideas, and a lot more. We can also set up one-on-one new user or refresher training on using our website. So you can email us or call us to set that up. The My Account page is a relatively new resource. So you can now change your password or update information like your email address or title through the password and profile link. If you are one of our regular contacts for updating passwords, you can now also manage your entire staff's access through the Manage User Accounts link. If you don't see that there, you can contact us and we'll get you set up with administrative access. But it's a good time to make sure all of your new staff has access, email addresses are up to date, and anyone who's no longer with your company gets deleted. And if you're on this webinar and you don't have your own password, so you know when you log in and you look up in the top right-hand corner and you see somebody else's name, contact us or reach out to the person at your company who handles the passwords so that we can get you set up with your own. And then lastly on this page, you'll see the My Services link, and you can click that to see a list of all the services that your company subscribes to. If there's anything you need, click the Contact Us link, and you can call our client services team at 800-223-1600, or you can email us at service@metro-email.com. And speaking as someone in the client services department, we are always happy to help you. And then finally, Metro's Good versus Bad Ad e-booklet is now available on our site, and it's packed with a lot of useful information based on today's webinar. That'll be included in the follow-up email that you'll get with the recording. And Metro has also partnered with the Relevance Project. And the Relevance Project is an initiative of newspaper association managers whose trade groups represent more than 8,500 newspapers in North America. And Metro's, of course, the garbage man comes by just as I'm doing this, so hopefully you can't hear all the noise. Metro has made available a Helping Businesses Reopen and a Newspaper Ads Work campaign downloadable on our site. You can find more information about the Relevance Project from our homepage or at relevanceproject.net. And again, we'll include those resources in the follow-up email as well. So, just to recap, you can, forgot my recap slide. So to recap, you can use Metro for inspiration. You can find ad campaigns, digital ads. You can get all different ways to communicate with each other. And you can also find a lot of helpful resources all on our site. And so now we are going to open it up for some questions. And at the risk of sounding like your phone company, electric company, bank, etc., saying, please hold on the line and take our short survey, I'm going to ask you to please stay after the webinar and take our short survey because your feedback really is so valuable to us and it helps us keep our services relevant to you. If you're ready to run out of here and start selling and you don't have time, you'll have another chance when we send out the email with the recording of today's webinar. And for those of you who want to stay for questions, we're going to do our best to get through them all. And to make it easier, everybody type your questions in the Q&A box instead of the chat window so that we just have one place to go to look for those. So let me open up my Q&A and see what we have so far. All right. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's at least try to keep it on the last slide here. My slides left. Okay. Uh-oh. And now, of course, I see notices that people can't see my screen.
So I messaged if anyone else was having a problem when that one came in, and no one else replied. So I directed that person to call customer service. So
okay, good.
That was worked out.
Okay, that's good. All right, and you answered this one already about is this the one, should we be prioritizing the headline on the ad over the business logo?
Yeah,
Some of our, that's the one you
I
answered.
that.
Okay.
Hopefully I answered it well.
Contacted from a business who told us the ask the expert phrase was their copywritten phrase, so we're not allowed to use it.
Really?
Well, every time I click a question, it takes me on my slide. All right, we'll have to check that out.
Yeah, that's something we'll have to look into.
Let's see.
It seems fairly generic to us.
Okay, all these are tech problems. I do use the pre-built ads a lot. My only problem is opening up a pre-built ad and having to replace a font. Those are copyrighted too, so we can't provide the fonts, unfortunately.
In InDesign or in Quark, whatever program you're using, there should be, a replace all option, and you can replace all the fonts. I know it's an additional work and hassle, and unfortunately, that's probably one of the biggest complaints. And we try to use, not unusual fonts in a lot of the copy. And if we do, want to do something a bit more decorative in a headline, we'll make it art. So then we're able to provide you more decorative fonts in Illustrator file.
What buzzwords do you feel are good in a headline?
Oh, that's a good one. I think that kind of depends on the situation. As you could see from the examples that we showed, the buzzwords were related to the image, or it might play off the advertiser itself. It's a good question. It's just kind of hard to answer. And I really feel like it's a specific situation that needs to be looked at. But that's also something that we could help you with if you ever need.
Can we tell if your company has the My Ad feature? You can go to log into MCC, go to the My Accounts link and click the services button, and that should list it there if you have it. And we can check it out after the webinar too. Laura, how do you balance the negative and positive space in a positive manner?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really depends on how much information is in the ad. When I'm looking for white space or negative space, I like to put things in sections so that, and create the ad in a flow with working with the images. I think about what I want them to read first, what I want them to see second, and then all the additional info. I like to section things out so that if they're only going to read the first thing, that gave them some information. Then you need a little bit of break of negative space, and then draw them into the next bit of information. And then really it depends what kind of images you're using. I like to start with the image and look at the image and see what kind of direction the image is directing my eye, and that's where I want to place the text so that they work together. So
Amanda is going to look for the Ask the Expert information. You can email that to service@metro-email.com and we'll get it where it needs to go.
Thanks, Amanda.
What about social media logos? Why does Metro not use the official logos?
I think we do use the official logos. For Instagram and Facebook?
Yeah.
It doesn't say specifically, but
okay.
I know we do. We created a like on Facebook logo that we use, but the other ones are the official logos.
Okay. I design for newspaper, but design all in color as our publications are posted for online viewing as well. Short of printing it out to look at it, how would you suggest checking whether an ad I build will convert well to black and white?
I would just quickly make a PDF of it and throw it in Photoshop and turn it black and white. And then from Photoshop, depending on, when you're placing your ad, you can adjust the contrast and things in Photoshop. I would say that would be the fastest way. And then you could manipulate it a little bit in Photoshop to, heighten the contrast.
Okay. Are there any fonts or design styles that are played out or otherwise out of fashion?
Currently, I feel like anything goes. And you could mix and match all kinds of things. I'm trying to think of, obviously the joke is Comic Sans, and I feel like that's the only one that is gone forever.
That's what came to my mind too. Yeah.
A lot of things are getting played out in the decorative scripty fonts, but when you mix and match them with the serif fonts or sans serif fonts and play with them more, I feel like that can still go as well. And then depending on who you're advertising for, how trendy they really want to be. So that's a really tough question.
Why the preference for sans serif fonts versus serif fonts?
Sometimes, serif fonts, I think, have a stronger feeling of something more classic, something more established, traditional kind of feel. Sans serif, I feel like, can go in both directions. Even companies who started off with serif logos are switching to sans serif, even though they're established brands. It's just a cleaner look, a little easier to read. It translates into web ads much easier. So if you're looking to start off with a font that's going to transfer well over different platforms, sans serif definitely transfers better than a serif font. But there's really some elegant, really nice serif fonts as well too, which are trendy, and so really it's just a preference. But I would say, the fact that sans serif transfers well into digital is really a good selling point to start with a sans serif font.
All right. Back to buzzwords. I realize you said that the buzzwords are specific to the situation. However, are there any that stand out that you have encountered over the years?
Well, I think that, traditionally, when we call attention to something like use action words like now or new or go, sometimes action words demand a little more readership, a little more response. Buzzwords, that's tough. I'm
trying to think. Handcrafted, like in that one ad.
Some,
Local,
something like that, right? Custom made.
Yeah. So artisanal.
Right.
What people are looking for and are attracted to these days, more. I guess that is tough. That's tough. We need to get our copyright.
You can sleep on that.
Maureen's up next.
Did I understand Daryl was saying Metro can help with crafting headlines?
Absolutely. Just the way that we are open to custom illustrations or searching down a specific type of photograph for you, we'd love to give some thoughts to a headline challenge. So definitely feel free to contact our customer service or feel free to contact me directly with the information that's available on your screen.
They look different from the ones on the company websites. I assume that's back to the social media, so we can check that out. There's some instructions on.
We have updated them at least once, maybe twice as logos have changed, especially with with Facebook and Instagram. So maybe some of our older ads, if you click on one from 2016,
That's possible.
It might pop up with the older logo. So
good call.
Oh, there you go. Changing it to black and white right in Acrobat. I was not really aware of that, I guess. Not usually changing things to black and white in Photoshop or in Acrobat.
I had a professor that loathed the use of new and improved. What's your take on that phrase?
I think it's kind of old and dated, actually.
Yeah.
There you go. So that answers the question earlier.
Yeah, new and improved has just reached a level of saturation where I'm not sure it's a standout phrase anymore. Completely agree with that.
In newsprint, is serif or sans serif better on a black background?
Well, traditionally, we know that serif fonts are easier to read and read quickly from, all kinds of typographic studies that are out there. But we're used to looking at text on a field of white, and something that's happening recently. I looked at my 16-year-old son's phone the other day, and he has everything transferred to a dark mode. So he's reading white text on a black background. And I'm not sure if there's been any, real attention paid to that, but that tried and true thought about reading being easier on a white background might be changing with younger eyes. So I'm not sure, but traditionally we do know that, serif fonts do read quickly. That's why most books are done in a serif font. And mostly black on a white field. But as I just said, it's interesting that it's changing in a digital world.
Right, and I guess it would depend, especially if you're doing white on black background, it would depend on how big the font and type is. Serif would be pretty hard to read if it was, a small 7-point font or,
Right.
Is there an additional fee to view your logo library? To view it, no. To use it, yes. And you can call us or email us, and we'll get you that information. But if you log out of our website, you can preview most of our services, like the add-ons, like the autos and the logos. You can do searches to see if we have what you're looking for, and then you just won't be able to download anything unless you add it on. Are there any tips on matching a sans serif or serif font to a decorative art type font?
So I can't think of any quick things, specific tips right away. But you want to keep one of the fonts pretty simple if you're doing a decorative font. So you want one to be, nice, bold, plain, maybe a heavier font. If you're going to do a nice scripty font, scripty decorative font. So it's kind of, it's playing with the fonts, but then also the thickness of the letters helps a lot. So if one is pretty thick, like a scripty marker like font, maybe the other words will be a nice thin sans serif font. So but I guess also you could mix similar weights. So it's so subjective, and there's so many different kinds of decorative fonts, and really so many things work well together if you just have the right weights and the right sizes, you know, point size of the type. So, I mean, I really like playing with different fonts and how they work together. And sometimes if you stare at something long enough, you're like, it does look good. So, you know, like, it's so subjective.
We struggle with our printers printing colors accurately. What are recommended colors to us that will translate well even in a less than perfect printing situation?
Hmm. It's very specific, and it's again so subjective and hard to generalize about color. But I guess as a general response, we would say to, you know, avoid heavily saturated color in layouts, which might sometimes affect readability or the way the image is printed, or its ability to be read against a background. That's also kind of a tough one.
Yeah, I wonder if that's something, you know, if at your out-of-house printer, they could help you with a bit more on why certain colors aren't printing well. Because I mean, it really depends on your paper as well. You know, what kind of paper it's being printed on. So that's a tough one.
For the logo services, do you need to have a monthly subscription or can you purchase one at a time? That would be a monthly subscription. That's all in the Q&A so far, but let me jump over to the chat window because it looks like there's a bunch of stuff in there. Kick-Ass is a decorative font? No?
Yes, I was wondering when that text came in, when that message came in, it was when I was saying, you know, oh shoot, my decorative fonts didn't show up. But okay. I have Kick-Ass. It is a decorative font, but that is a piece of art on the page. It wasn't something I just typed in to the PowerPoint.
I think that's a trendy situation, Laura, with some of the weathered look on the fonts, you know, how we've used the Kick-Ass there.
How many or max fonts are recommended per ad?
I like 2, one kind of decorative and one for body copy. And then you'll ultimately have a business logo. So that almost brings in a third, you know, look of a font. I would say 2 is good, especially for some diversity. And then fonts that have different weights is always nice because you could just play around with that, you know, just doing a thin version of the font and then a bold version of the font to give more interest like that. But I would definitely say 3 is the absolute max.
Okay. Oh, I'm getting corrected. Our web ads are not static JPEGs. They're Photoshop PSDs. They are static, but they are Photoshop layered files, which I did mention. So that trumps what I said about them being JPEGs. How many college credit hours do I get? And can you ask my boss to get reimbursed for this free seminar? We'll do our best. All right, I see Rob's comment, use less ink coverage, more art than photo, but I don't know which that was in response.
I think that might have been referring to the
printing
situation.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And in general, we would, you know, suggest working with your pressman to take a look at those and work out those kinds of details.
All right. Okay, some more came in the Q&A. Can you create the weathered look using Photoshop or Illustrator if you make a font art? How do you do it?
Yes, you can. And maybe we can get our art director to do a quick tutorial on some things. If there's any like things like this that people are interested in and want, you know, a quick video tutorial or something, I'm sure, you know, or a quick email from one of us on how to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Again, contact us directly and we'd be happy to have someone get back to you and, you know, with some instructive thoughts about creating a weathered look to your type.
And you can use the email addresses right here
Yes.
on the left. Should you match a font in an ad to the company logo you're working with if you can?
I mean, I think if, you know, if they have a distinct look and brand, it would be good. And then something, I don't know, you don't want to like try to match it and be off if you don't have that exact font. But in general, I would say, you know, that their logo is their brand, and a font really gives you a feeling and impression of a place. So if you want to keep that consistent look, I would say yes.
Yeah, and I would imagine that, for instance, a spa advertiser, if they had a decorative scripty font, I think that some of the accompanying typography in the ad, you know, being reflective of that would make it successful. Agreed.
Right.
Any difference in using Photoshop or InDesign for designing web ads?
Personally, I don't think so, because you can, you know, take your InDesign ad and, you know, save it as a PNG or, you know, whatever format you're going to have to use for a web ad. I am way more comfortable designing in InDesign than Photoshop. I cannot do a layout very easily in Photoshop. It's just not as intuitive to me. So yes, I don't think there's any quality difference or anything like that. Ultimately, you just need to end up with a PNG or JPEG file at the correct resolution for a website, for online. So.
All right, I think that is all the questions that have come in so far. You got an agreement on InDesign.
Yes.
Any last questions? And if you think of any after we're done here, you can always email any of us, and we will get back to you, or you can email service@metro-email.com. And then, as I mentioned, tomorrow you should get an email from Zoom with the follow-up. It'll have a survey in it, and it will also have the recording to today's webinar and the good versus bad ads booklet, a link to that, and a link to the Relevance Project information too. So hopefully you guys all walked away with some good information that you didn't already know. And thank you all so much for attending. Anything else that either of you want to add, Daryl or Laura?
No, I just want to say thank you to everyone, and please feel free to contact us directly with any questions or thoughts or needs. We're happy to help.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Bye.